Yeah, remember the name. Jazz Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane. So better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question. Giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jazz Takhar podcast.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Jazz Takhar podcast. For everybody who is watching on the app, I implore you to go download the audio version on any podcast platform, i.e. the Spotify's, the Apple Podcast, the Google Play podcast, the iHeartRadios of the world. And if you are taking your dog for a walk right now or on the treadmill or driving, make sure that you download the app, and that can easily be done just by going over to the App Store or the Play Store. It is a free download. That's where you get my full podcast episodes via video, but there's so much more that's happening on the app right now. And for 2023, the crew and I are very excited to be bringing you live streams to the app. Yes, you heard it right. We're going to be live streaming a lot of our events, exclusive events, as well as my keynotes and all my short films. Big shout out to Yas, who watches the ones and twos while we do the podcast, but also creates those films. Today's episode is going to be all about talking about, for investors as well as real estate agents slash entrepreneurs slash salespeople, about what I think you can and should be doing when market shifts. It could be a downturn like we're somewhat experiencing right now, specifically in real estate, but I think it's safe to say we're experiencing it in the stock market. People are getting laid off. What kind of mindset, and more importantly, what can you do tactically, not only to survive some type of downturn, but to also thrive? What a lot of you don't know about me specifically is that I've been in sales and in service for coming up to 29 years now, specifically 19 years in real estate, which also gives me the experience to talk to real estate agents, but also real estate investors, because I've seen the market kind of go up and down. You might see my eyes shift over to my right now. On screen, it would be to your left, because I did bring in I'm not going to call her a guest because she's kind of part of the crew and part of the team. She was shooting some videos, and I said, Laura, I was about to go solo on this podcast episode today. It is actually being shot on Super Bowl Sunday. So you're hearing this obviously come out on a Wednesday. So I'm curious who ended up winning the Super Bowl, either the Chiefs or the Eagles. But I said, listen, I need to shoot an episode. Why don't you come on and join me on the couch? What up, Laura?
Hey, Jazz.
You like
Thanks
that one?
for having me back.
For sure. I know the only reason you're here is because you probably told Yas off screen, like, hey, make sure you get me a clip for my content. But
I'll do anything for content. Anything.
My all joking aside, girl, like, you're up to a lot of stuff with all the content that you're putting out there, specifically the Laura Show. For anybody who's following me, they might not even know you, and they have no clue.
How can that possibly be?
I know. For those people that don't, though, what the heck is the Laura Show about?
Well, the Laura Show, we're 3 episodes deep now, which has been a lot of fun. The purpose of the show was really to pass the microphone to some amazing women in the Greater Toronto area. I wanted career-oriented women, or women who had amazing journeys and stories to tell, or tips and feedback, just to help other women and men with some life hacks, some things to help make their lives a little bit easier or inspire them to do some incredible things. And we've had some very interesting guests on already.
Where did that come about? Like why did you say, okay, I think we need to start a show and specifically like kind of cater it towards women?
Well, I mean, I had a little bit of FOMO because you had this amazing show, and I was like, I can do that. Yeah. Honestly, I think the intention was never really just to be for women when I thought about having a show. I didn't want to exclude anybody, but at the same time, what I did find is in the real estate space, there are a lot of men kind of having these types of conversations. In the podcasting space, there's more men than women doing it. I think that probably has to do with self-consciousness. Women tend to be a little bit more concerned with their appearance on camera. Am I smart enough? Am I good enough to even be a guest or be a host, or what would I even talk about? And so I just kind of wanted to help extend that olive branch to other women and say, like, look, let's do this together. So we'll see how long it lasts with just women, but it's a lot of fun. And I think there's some incredible stories in there to be shared.
Really quickly, where can people find it?
They can find it everywhere that you listen to podcasts. So wherever you're listening to this, I guess, is also where it is, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
I'm not a big podcasting person. I'm more of a YouTube watcher. I actually put it on YouTube, but listen to it when I drive.
Yep.
So, of course, it's on YouTube as well.
Okay, cool. So enough of the self-promotion stuff, and I led
Thanks
you
for
there.
the
So
plug.
it's you know, it wasn't you doing it. Let's speak about what people can do from a investing perspective as well as salespeople when you just kind of go through hard times. And you hear a lot of this as well through our sales solution company from the ground up. I mean, you have agents coming to you and saying, look, I'm having a very tough time in the market right now. My phone's not ringing as much. My emails are not dinging as much. I don't have people reaching out and say, come list me as much. But from our real estate company, REC Canada, I mean, we still have things happening. And we have 60 agents that are, you know, boots to the ground. You and I kind of control what happens with our core database of a little over 11,452 people, I think was the count that Tyler just gave me a couple of days ago. We watch that they're still reaching out to us from the perspective of looking for compelling buying opportunities, possibly maybe getting into their first property, or even thinking about like upsizing, right? Taking advantage of what's happening in the market. And so that's what I really wanted this episode to be about, because I think it all starts with mindset. I think that if you are thinking, and you mentioned something earlier about just like women, they have a hard time, maybe slightly more than men, but I see it with men as well.
It's a generalization for sure. We see a lot of men that struggle with the same things. Sometimes I think people let their fear dictate what they do. So it's not that I think men feel less self-conscious. I think they just do the thing that gets them over it a little bit faster.
And so when I'm talking about the mindset, here's where I've always went, right? There's a reason I mentioned not to impress people right now and start flexing about all my experience and shit like that. The reason I mentioned it is because I want you to know that I've been through the times. Like I've been through those hard times in sales as well as in investing. That what I've always looked at, and here's the mindset that I think if you're watching this and you're taking the time to watch this or listen to it, you should be doing the exact same thing. Which is understanding that if someone else got out of this situation, and more importantly, if millions upon millions of people in the past have not only survived but thrived in these type of situations where there's a dip in the market as an investor or as a business owner, entrepreneur, salesperson, that means you can do it. So just that in itself is the mindset that I want people, and I want to get your take on this, obviously, Toe, but is understanding that, okay, he was able to do that. There's millions of people who became multimillionaires and billionaires through downturns in the market.
So it's that belief that like, why not me?
100%.
Yeah.
Because if that person is breathing the same air as us, they're putting their pants on one leg at a time. And I'm not trying to dumb this down, but I kind of am at the same time, because it's very important to understand that as long as someone else has done what you're trying to do, then why not you? And it starts with belief.
It's funny because you're wearing a sweatshirt that says you are enough. And I think that's such an important message to put out into the world, because sometimes we just really don't believe in ourselves, right? We don't believe we're capable. We don't want to invest in something because we're like, you know, we were talking about some goals that we were making for ourselves, right? And when you start throwing out some big numbers, there's a certain point where you believe, and then all of a sudden you think it's funny or it's humorous. Like, oh, okay, like, how could I ever be that multimillionaire person? Or how could I ever be that famous? Or whatever it is that you think your goal is. But I think that is just yourself stopping the thinking, the positive thinking that's required to actually reach those new heights.
And I also want to make sure people understand, I have the utmost belief in myself. If this is going to work out or not, like the goals that we spoke about, great. And if not, I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the journey. I have the utmost belief in the people around me. But what I want people to understand is don't think that I don't have doubt at times. You know what I mean? Like there's times where it's like, oh, okay, like I tried that event. I tried that piece of content.
You don't really say it out loud that often.
Well,
though.
that's where I was going with this, right?
Yeah.
Also, I just don't really speak it out loud.
So you say it in your mind, and is there a reason you don't speak it out loud? Because you feel like that almost makes it true or something?
Well, I think that I'm a big believer that your thoughts and like your words. So your thoughts at the start become your words. Mm-hmm. Your words then become your feelings. And then it's those specific feelings that set the vibration of what you're going to attract. We all know as kids, and we all know, like you don't need to be a scientist, like attracts like magnets, that force. But if you ever try to like have a positive and a positive force come together, you feel that force in between, like just before they attach to each other. Right?
Yeah.
Like you ever felt that force? Yeah. That is the vibration that you're actually putting out.
I think it actually is a positive and a negative, though.
No, what are you talking about? When you have a like and a like, you have a. So hang on. When you have a like and a like,
we need to go back to science class.
We might need to
you do need to go to science class.
Maybe I do need to go to science class.
I think it's a positive and a negative. You can't have two positives that.
Well, we need to test that anyways. We need to test that. But I know in the vibration
this is two idiots.
Well, that's
trying
what
to make sense of the
trying
world.
to make sense of it all.
That.
But I can tell you, bringing into your world, like will attract like.
So I get the feeling that you stop it as soon as you can with the thoughts.
100%.
You don't feed into it. So it's not that the thought doesn't exist. You just think, oh, it's just a thought and that'll pass. You don't feed it. You don't feed the thought with now words, and you certainly don't feed the words with emotion.
Well,
right? So
and then saying it out loud, because I have a team around me, that's going to bring you guys down. But say you don't have a team around you. Once you start speaking to it out loud, now, to your point, you're feeding to it. I always say like you're going down that negative rabbit hole, which will only attract more negativity into your life.
This happens to me in the morning. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to get out of the house, something happens, you forget your phone inside, and then you're like, fuck. Like you're so pissed, and you go back inside, and you're like, this stupid day, and then all of a sudden you come back outside, and then you trip, or you hit your knee getting into the car. Like it just keeps like, because now you're looking for bad stuff. And I think it's so interesting. The older I get, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. Like I've never kind of experienced really a down market where I was the entrepreneur or the salesperson. I had a salaried job during those other down markets. And so that was pretty stable, right? Like my income kind of stayed the same. There wasn't that much fear, where this is the first time at my ripe age of 38, sadly, that I'm really like feeling the impact of consumer confidence on my business, on both the real estate business and the other business. And so I kind of feel like I'm like, you know, if you're in your 20s and you're just starting out in the sales industry, this is probably the first time you're experiencing it too. And so but for you, you're like, oh, Laura, like I've experienced this time and time again, like the same thing happens. So you have all this data now to pull on. You have all this history to pull on, which is, I think it's what's so great about actually experiencing things firsthand, is that you can draw on those experiences now and say, like, look, I get that it's hard. What did I do last time that set me up, right? Or what did I not do last time where I wish I had done it, and now I have that opportunity again? Like my husband and I, we always laugh. It's like, oh, the next time a recession happens, or the next time like a downward market happens, we're gonna buy all this real estate. And every time, like we don't get on top
because of the fear.
Because of the
even
fear.
now, right? Like, so and we'll go back and forth between investors and salespeople / entrepreneurs. Right now, from an investing perspective in the greater Toronto area, where a majority of our businesses and majority of our clients are, there are certain like actual locations within the greater Toronto area, because there's probably about, off the top of my head, I don't know, like close to 1,000 submarkets, okay? Micro markets, you can call them, in the greater Toronto area. There is homes, condos, properties that from the peak being February 2022, and now at the time of this recording, we're in February, so exactly a year, February 2023, we're sitting, that when you look at the peak and compare it, you're like seeing a difference of $250,000, $300,000 in purchase prices. Okay? We've never, I shouldn't say never, we haven't seen this type of drastic change in pricing for the last, I'm going to say about 15 years. I've been at it for about 19 years. Some would say there was a little bit of a dip in 08, 09 in the Greater Toronto area, but it wasn't as drastic. So the values have come down in certain areas, and that's why I'm making sure people hear me out. Like, it's not in all areas in the Greater Toronto area, but in these areas, but most people wouldn't jump on it because of two reasons. Number one, they're fearful of actually taking the jump. And then number two would be that they think that it's still going to go lower. And I understand that. But trying to...
Yeah, no one wants to buy something and then like 2 months later it's worth
but
less than it was when you bought it.
But what they're trying to do is time it. So real estate just went on sale in a lot of these areas. And so from an investor's perspective, I think what you should be doing is getting all your ducks in order. So for example, you and your husband, why haven't you taken the jump? Just hot take.
Paralysis by analysis.
There it
what
is.
should we be buying? What's the right thing to buy? It's not so much the fear of buying, so much as it is what's the right
Because
thing.
you've also bought
nail
before.
it.
You've also bought before. It's not like this is going to be the first time that you guys are
and
investing.
like we make other types of investments.
Yeah.
We don't just invest in real estate. I also, my husband and I are just kind of pretty lazy investors. In that we like passive investments. Like that's just our personal style. So I think the idea of like being a landlord tomorrow is a little bit daunting for us. So we tend to like more passive type of real estate investments, like using our RSPs to invest, investing in pre-construction condos. And the prices with pre-construction haven't necessarily seen the same decrease that we've seen in the resale market. But I think the resale market's an incredible time. I was just talking to my dad the other day and he's thinking, I plan on moving to Burlington in the next 5 to 10 years. He's like, but I don't want to wait for 5 years from now. I think I should be buying something now and maybe not moving in, but just renting it out. Cause he's thinking, well, prices are going to go up. Like he knows that too. So I think he's probably going to take action, just knowing, like setting himself up for the future. As long as you have a long-term view of your property, it doesn't really matter if it goes down in 2 months or 6 months. The idea is like, well, if I'm holding on to it for another 10 years, I know it's going to go up in that time.
So as I was saying, is like kind of getting your ducks in order as an investor. I think what you need to do is find out, okay, where do I have possible access to capital, right? And that could be either money that you have saved, okay? And so hopefully also as an investor and as a salesperson, you aren't spending frivolously. Like you're not just going out, buying a brand new car, buying like maybe the shopping bill that you have in terms of clothes and stuff. You should maybe just take a little breather. This comes out of experience right now. Having capital in your account is a good feeling because then you can deploy it in times like this.
I've noticed something about you. You've always been quite frugal with your spending. Like, I mean, look at the guy. Well, it's not like I'm dressed any nicer, but like you've never been kind of the quintessential real estate salesperson that I think of, where it's like when times are good, they're buying that new car and then, the lease is up, buying a nicer car. And you're always kind of one-upping yourself, like buying that nicer belt, you don't really care to show off. And I think that that's probably helped you.
This belt that I have on right now is from like 5 years ago. Like, so to your point, continue.
Yeah, exactly. So because you're not big on spending, and I'm going to talk for you because I don't know if you'll speak about yourself this way, you don't feel the need to show off. And so that's allowed you to keep your expenses low. And that means that when times are changing and money is not necessarily pouring in, not to say it was pouring in, but money's not coming in at the same rate that it was, you already had this like nice little rainy day fund. You had a good cushion because you weren't doing anything to keep up. The problem is when you're trying to keep up with other people and bad things happen, you don't have the rainy day fund because you spent all your money to have a particular look. But at the same time, you have a brand now where people expect you to have new clothes. They expect you to have a nice car. And you really think that that takes a hit to your ego. So you keep up this charade of spending because you're like, oh, I can't wear the same gown to the gala that I wore 4 years ago. People are going to remember that. And so you have to keep up. You have no choice because that's the brand that you made for yourself. So I actually think even though, people might not agree with how you dress, how you look, your brand, I think it's working out really, really well for you in times like these.
Well, 100%, girl. Like I'm sitting right now with cash in my account, waiting to see where I'm going to deploy it from an investment perspective. I also did a refi exactly 9 months ago. So it was actually just before we started to see the dip in values. I couldn't time it. I mean, I wish I did it probably
Why
in
did
January.
you do it?
Well, I'll tell you. So, I wish I did it in maybe January 2022 because I would have got a higher value for it. But the reason I did it was because I knew that, hey, I want access to cash because when I'm ready to invest, then I'm going to be able to deploy it as quickly as possible into an investment in real estate, or what I really truly believe is the best investment is the investment into myself. And that could come from okay, I need to take some courses or some programs. I think where I'm at in my life and in my career, it's let's go get a studio. Let's build out a studio. That's investing into myself. That's investing into my own business. Because I think that's
starting from the ground up was an investment into yourself.
The company in itself.
We obviously had to put money into it. And we did it in a time that was obviously pretty tumultuous, so to speak. It was coming right off of COVID. I mean, we kind of knew the writing would be on the wall in terms of what was going to happen from a interest rate perspective. And we did it anyways. And you can only do that, when you have that belief in yourself. So back to your mindset piece, but also when you've appropriately saved. So you can say, no, now I'm doubling down. I'm going all in on myself because I believe in myself and I have this access to capital to do it.
Well, I can tell you, look, as the real estate guy, from now, at the age of 41 and until I keep on putting money into investments, I'll always put more dollars into myself and my business than I will into real estate.
Have you always been like that?
I'm going to say so. At the age of 2019, I started in car sales. Okay. And in car sales, what I did was I took 50% of every commission check that I got and put it into my own account. I paid myself
That's a lot.
first. It was 50%. Because at that time I was still living with my parents, so my bills weren't high. I was lucky enough to get a free car from the dealership, and they paid for the gas as well. Once a week, you have to kind of top up here and there. No payment on insurance. I really truly only had a phone bill and my fun bill, or whatever you want to call it, going out with my friends and partying and stuff like that. But I was never really hard into partying. And so I would even bring my food, from home. I mean, which is odd now because
I don't to live at home.
It pays 100%, right? I mean, to anybody who's in their 20s, if you can stay at home as long as possible.
Yeah. I didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And so paying rent is the majority of my paycheck went to my rent.
Yeah, but now even then, whatever is left over, you still got to pay yourself
not even
something.
left over. You almost have to
pay yourself first. Yes.
Pay yourself first. And then know what your rent should be after you paid. You have to reverse engineer it. Right?
Some of the people in the finance world would say pay yourself 10%. I just don't think that's enough. 50% was obviously aggressive because I was with my parents. You got to be somewhere in and around that 20% range.
I was in and around that 20%.
Here's my thought process, right? As somebody who's self-employed, you're probably paying if you have a corporation set, you're probably paying anywhere from call it 15 to 20% on corporate tax. So if you're going to give that to someone else, i.e. the government, can you also just give that to yourself first? That's where I come up with that 20%. Maybe it's, upwards of 30, whatever it is, right? Get your head wrapped around paying yourself 20%. Where I think a lot of younger people have a problem with that. It's bro, I'm getting a $3,000 check. And so this $600 is not gonna, it's not enough for me to do anything. Yeah, because you're thinking over, that 2-week paycheck, or if it's in a month or whatever it is. But what happens after a year? What happens over 2 years? See, the best invention of all time is compounding interest. In fact, if you look at what happens to that $600 over like a 10-year period, it's not just the interest that you get on that 600. It's like the next time it's interest on 1,200.
On the interest.
And then
interest on interest on
like
interest.
interest on interest on interest. Like you can really start to see how it grows, right? And there are tons of examples. Just Google it. You'll see at the start it's very, very
and it's like,
slow.
yeah, the graph is kind of like minuscule and seems like, what am I even doing this for? And then all of a sudden, boom, it shoots up.
It just blows up in that sense, right? So, going back to what you're saying, I always kind of had the mindset, I gotta put away money. Now, when I got into my late 20s, kind of early 30s, I was like, well, I want a little bit more interest on this. I want a higher, interest just being the higher return. I'm in real estate. I'm going to invest into real estate, right? But it was about 3 years ago, right around COVID time, once we locked into COVID, like once we got into lockdown, I made the decision, okay, I'm going to get access to capital. It took me an extra year to actually do the refi. Okay, so now I'm sitting on some cash that I did do a refi, but I made the decision at that time that I'm going all in on myself and my business because I've done the real estate stuff, right? Like, and I'm still going to continue to invest into real estate. It's just that I'm going to put a lot more emphasis on the investment into myself because I just know I believe in myself.
What's the average return that you see on your real estate?
I'm going to say the average return, if you take into consideration, and some of the other real estate heads might not take this stuff into consideration, but I do anyways, because it's just easier for me. Passive appreciation, the principal pay down, so how much my mortgage is being paid down, and cash flow. There's always that fourth way as well with forced appreciation, but I don't do a lot of that stuff. Like I don't add, I'm not going to use the
nail
drill
and hammer.
Yeah, I'm not that guy, right? I'm going to say I'm probably getting around like 30 to 35% year over year return.
But when you compare it to investments you've made in yourself,
I can't even give you a number, Laura. Like I think it would be in and around, I'm probably lowballing it, but it's 3, 4, 5, 10x. Like it's I can't give you a number on that, right? Like for example,
but I think it goes to show that the investment in yourself, if you truly, truly believe in yourself and you're confident in what your talents are and how you can surround yourself with people to help you like deploy your dreams, what the potential is.
When you said surround yourself, so one, because then you can get more done. But I think that's an actual tactic though. And that's important, and I want to talk about that because people will ask, like, okay, well, how do you get to believe in yourself? How do you stay positive?
Yeah, you do have a natural belief in yourself that I think a lot of people don't have, and they would say, oh, it's easy for Jazz because he's just confident.
But some of it is DNA, because I really want to give it its due, like my parents. Like I really want like that. Just
those Takhar genes.
The Takhar genes. There's definitely something to it, right? However, this is me going back to what we were saying. If someone else has done it, that you can do it. Like, there's been some like people who have gone through some like fucked up shit in their life. Like, beat up as a kid, rape, like a lot of things, okay? And so where I go to though, if someone got past that means you can as well. But what's the tactic? The tactic is, so if it's not in the DNA, if you didn't have the environment, like I know kind of your backstory as much as you've shared in terms of your environment, very positive. The Tushi clan was a positive environment.
Yes.
Okay. But not everybody had that. So what can you actually do if you're watching or listening right now? And that's what the tactic is making sure that you're only surrounding yourself with people that are positive, uplifting, and inspiring, because then it keeps you in that state as much as possible. Because it's like us, like when you're around us in our environment, me, you, Tyler, Simos, you know what I mean? Luke, Steven, Yas, we all have bad days individually, bad moments, bad days, bad weeks. But because there's a core group of us, of like 5, 6 of us, it has been very rare, and this is not a sample size of a year, 2 years, 5 years. It's a sample size of like north of a decade now. I don't think we've ever been in a time where more than 2 people have been in a negative state at the same time.
Well, you know what's funny? We don't let the negative feelings or person of that day bring down the groups. You know, sometimes like it'll be a pile on, right? Like if someone comes in and they're like complaining complaining about work, for example, and then the person they're complaining to work about also starts complaining about work. Like people latch on to that negativity. We're almost the opposite. It's like we give people space to be negative and to have their days, but then we throw out the reminders like, remember to be grateful about this, and like, oh, well, here's something good that happened today, or let's shift the mood. And so we don't, instead of latching on and being negative with the people, we just try to pull the person out of that funk that they're feeling.
And so if you're a real estate investor, I want you to continuously be listening and watching and being part of inspiring groups. Okay, so if you're on your own in your car, always be listening to positive podcasts and shows. If you are someone as an investor again, and you need to like, because I think you should also be like in the physical form. You need to be in positive spaces. I need you to be part of investor meetups. Like these are the like actual musts you need to do in 2023 to actually create wealth. I know you think it's finding an opportunity and getting a deal. It's really not that. That's like maybe 10% of it. The 90% of it, how you're going to get through this market and how you're going to create wealth, and you're going to thank yourself, and hopefully you'll send us a message and say it was that episode that did it, is that you're always in meetups, like in physical forms with other investors that are actually positive and inspiring. And 99% of those meetups and groups, like investment groups, they're always in a positive and inspired. It's the environment there is always positive because they also have been through this before. And so as an investor, that's your hack. Okay? That's how you're going to get through this. This is how you're going to create a lot of wealth. Remember, only 10% is the mechanics, like which deal do I invest into, a pre-construction, a land development, a BRRRR strategy, wholesale, whatever that stuff is, it's only 10%, okay? The 90% is who you actually surround yourself with. Now, as a salesperson, I think it's very important that, and maybe this won't be the episode that changes it, but maybe this can be something that plants a seed. You really need to ask yourself, like, why are you buying all that stuff? And why are you upgrading your cars? And like, nothing against anybody who wants nicer things. It's out there and you should be able to get it. But see, when the market shifts like this and there's a downturn and your phone's not ringing as much, the emails are not dinging as much, people are not reaching out to you as much, I think you're going to be a lot happier and less stressed from a financial perspective and a personal perspective if you have some cash that you put away and you didn't spend on stuff. Because I can tell you, I do a lot of business in real estate as a salesperson, and none of it is because of the way that I dress. We know that to be a fact, right? It's because of like, I know what I'm talking about. I know how to bring value to people. Because I have mental bandwidth in my brain, and here's the tactic for everyone, because I'm not worried about my finances as much because I've put away money, I'm prepared. Right now, 2020 was our best year ever on record until 2021 happened. That was our best year on record. And I'll go back to 19. I'll go back to 2018. It was always that progression. 2022, though, was not our best year, especially comparing it to 2021. But it was still better than 2019. Mm-hmm. And I would have to look back to see if it was better than 2020.
Right, so that's
I can't
important
remember.
To know, right? Like, what are you comparing it to? If you're always comparing something to your best, but like you're still doing well. It's interesting. Last night, I was trying on some outfits because we have this awards gala that's coming up, right? And historically speaking, I've always purchase something new for the awards gala. It's like, oh, I get a new dress, or I get a new pair of shoes, or a new purse, or just something to be excited about. Where this year, it's funny, I'm like looking through my closet, through all these old clothes and shoes, and I'm trying to think like, what did I wear before? And I had so much fun kind of shopping in my own closet. And I was telling you that I pulled a shirt that I purchased when I was 20 years old. So this is 18 years old. And I think I can squeeze myself into it still. And the irony is, I think because I don't truly wrap up my sense of self-worth in what I'm wearing, I like clothes, I like fashion, that is part of my brand, but it's not how I define myself. It's like the luxury items or the having something new is not how I define myself. For me, it's more the creativity of putting something together that's unique and interesting, more the art around outfit creation that I think is allowing me to now go back and have all this kind of fun, right? So I think it's kind of like assessing your situation and just saying like, okay, yes, I might not be able to spend. Like maybe I should go a little bit on the defense and not be spending as frivolously, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean like you don't still go on the offense.
100. Well, so, and we have no script for this. I'm sure everybody can friggin' tell.
Did I?
No, it's awesome because you're taking me to the next thing. Is that because I have the mental bandwidth and you have the mental bandwidth and the people that I'm seeing winning and the people that I've seen win over this 20, let's call it really 19 years to be exact in this business, the people that I've seen win is that the ones that said, you know what, I got money in my account. I'm not stressed because this is just part of the process. When you've been in commission sales and business for yourself, to think that there's not going to be any dips would be naive. So
you see this all the time, eh? We have a lot of real estate agents who they do share with us their financial hard times, but you can see how much, when you say mental bandwidth, it actually takes time out of their day. Like they're not able to move very quickly because they're so stressed and it's, oh, my wife wants me to go on this trip, but I don't think I should, but I'm going to anyways. And it's like they can't even make a phone call to do more business because they're so stuck in their mind about how stressed they are. Like you see this all the time. And so, in terms of mental bandwidth, it's not like, oh, that takes up space in my mind. It actually takes up time.
It takes up time, and then you can't execute on the things that you need to execute on to get you out of the situation that you're in. So it becomes this vicious circle. And so maybe it's what salespeople really need to hear. And I will put me up against anybody in sales. Anybody. I don't care who it is in the world. I'm that confident not because I think I'm that good, it's just because I have that much experience. I would be a fucking idiot if I didn't pick up on some patterns. 29 years in this industry, okay? Sales industry. And here's what I want everybody to know. Here's what you need to do as a salesperson that would be, it's not the word that I'm not looking for materialistic, like something that you would have to show on the outside, right? So what I'm really trying to say is that you don't need a nice car. You don't need nice clothes. Like you don't need a nice watch. You don't need a beautiful briefcase. None of that is needed for you to be successful in sales. So whoever's telling you that, they're probably trying to sell you on something, or just they have no other value to bring in terms of content to you, because all they can tell you is buy a fucking car because people are going to like you more or they're going to think you're successful. Okay? So I'm here to tell you that you don't need to do that. And this is not a joke. You do need to do this. You need to take a fucking bath because a lot of you sometimes don't take a shower. You need to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Because you can't be in fucking sales and your breath stinks because it's just a turnoff for people. This is like real experience I have. Take a shower, brush your teeth, okay? And know your product or service better than the person that you're speaking to. If you
back to basics, right? You always say that.
Back to basics. You have those three things, and then if you can just have the fourth, okay? Which is come to a conversation with a positive mental attitude, meaning on the outside, how does that show? Smile. Because if you can smile, you have a higher probability of influencing someone else's state. Because if someone's having a bad day, or they're just having a very balanced day, like there's just status quo for them in their day, I'm not saying it's going to work every time, but Sales is about stacking the cards in your favor. If you're the one who smiled, you have a better shot at possibly that person smiling back. And now the state of the conversation has changed. That's all you need to have. You're looking at a guy. I've never had beautiful cars. Okay. I've never really had like nice suits. I've never had expensive stuff. I have a watch that I never wear, but it was kind of given to me like as a quasi gift. It's the only thing that I have that's really materialistic. And the reason I'm very passionate about this is because I want to get people out of the rat race. And maybe I'm one of my purposes is to get salespeople out of the rat race. And it's because the shit that I get to see sometimes on socials of other people like just talking dumb shit. Like you need to have all these nice things. And that's the only way you're going to get business.
Don't you think it's more for each other they do that? Because like when I really think about any time I've purchased anything, I don't even think I could tell you like, oh, I bought it because the salesperson looked good, or I bought it because the salesperson had a Rolex or a fancy car. Like, I actually almost think that would be a bit of a turnoff in a way. So I can only then imagine that the real reason, if people really, really reflected on why they're buying those things, is not because they're like, I'm going to do more deals because I showed up to my listing appointment in a fancy car. Because most people, let's be honest, you're not selling luxury listings. Like I get that on the luxury side. Okay, sure. The average real estate agent, the average salesperson is selling an average product to the average person. They can't even relate to your car. Most of them don't even know what you're wearing anyways. They don't even know the brands because they're not even in that market. So the real reason you're buying that stuff is for the other salesperson to make you feel good when you show up at the office that other people think you're successful. That's so messed up.
And it's completely messed up. And I think people in general do that anyways. It's not just salespeople, which is like they're buying shit to impress other people. And half the time those other people are people that they don't even know. Like they don't even know each other. They're just trying to impress people, right? So I think that would be a completely different, like we can go 2 hours on that type of episode and that topic. I like what you said about, them doing it for each other. Because here's what then actually happens to these real estate agents or salespeople is that they need to keep that going. And that's the stress now that they're actually enduring because I need to upkeep. I need to keep up with it. I need to pay these payments on these cars. I got to pay these payments on this, penthouse condo, on all the stuff. And
I can't buy a car down. I can't downgrade. What will people think of me?
Exactly. And then what happens is that you can't make the investment into fucking Yas. You can't make the investment into an executive assistant. You can't make the investment into having a buyer agent. You can't make the investment into, there's no way I can pay a VP. There's no way I can pay a VP or pay a director of team operations and have that person take a percentage of my deal because that dollar, call it whatever it is, right? So you make $1 and then the percentage you're going to give to a VP, a director of team operations, a YAS, I need that money because I got to pay somebody off. But what you've just done is now halted your growth in the business. Because when you do bring on a YAS, a VP, a director of team operations, you can move a lot quicker. And what you also come to realize, and again, this is talking out of experience, there's probably really, there's no car that's like known as the average car. And so what I'm really trying to say here is that like, other than like, I don't know what these Phantoms, Rolls Royce Phantoms and stuff go for, but anything 500,000, south of 500,000, there's no car that I can't go get right now. And it's not going to put me like in a problematic state. I tell you that again, not to impress you, to talk to you about what money I have. I tell you because I've also realized that the fucking novelty wears off so quickly. Like it's cool for the first 4 months. Because you're going to drive to the restaurant that your friends are going to be at or your clients are going to be at. But then that shit wears off after a while because you realize. Homes are the same too, right? Sorry?
Homes are the same
Homes
too.
Are the, well, you come
get
home.
so excited to go into a new home. You hate your current home. You're like, oh, if I had a better home, I'd be happier one day. And then you get the new home and you move in and it's all great.
And I don't think they're homes, Laura. I think those are just houses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know, like, a house is a house. It's the structural part of a, you got your studs, you got your drywall, you got all that stuff and all the furniture. But what makes a home is who's in it. And like, so I don't even think these are homes. These are just, people have a bunch of houses.
Yeah.
And so the novelty there again wears off. You do some housewarmings and all that kind of stuff. People are like, you have such a beautiful
And
house.
now you just live there.
And now you just live
with
there.
yourself and whoever else, the same life that you had before.
And,
like, it does wear off.
And so I can tell you that when you're to kind of come back full circle about what we were intending to talk about. Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm sure we hit it in some way or form because we do.
Off topic.
But it was like, okay, how do you get out of these situations? You gotta be able to take a step back. As an investor, you gotta take a step back, see where you can get your capital. Okay, where can you have access to capital, and then realize that you need to deploy that as an investor. Stay around positive people. As a salesperson, take a step back. Where are you spending your money? Can we start to now like really, really decrease the amount of stuff we're spending money on that doesn't really matter? Then what that allows you to do is go on the offense. Because as I watch agents drop out of the business, well, to me, that gets me very excited. I'm sad to see people go and they got to get into other jobs in their life. But it excites me because I know we at REC can go on the offense and pick up market share.
Exact. I was just about to say the exact same thing. Like, you are like, it's the opportunity now. Because when things are tough, like you said, people stop dropping off. And I think now is also the time when you can, is like, brand building in hard times is like the most important thing, because that's how you steal the market share. So that's why we double down on the content. That's why I'm on the show, just to get the content, really. Like,
100%.
It's like, let's double down. Because now's the time, because people are in their own heads. They don't feel good. They don't feel like creating videos. They don't feel like taking photos because they're stressed and they have all that shit going on in their own mind. Well, now is the opportunity.
And people, and the marketplace, if you're a real estate agent, then if you're a real estate agent, your clients are going to remember, or I shouldn't even say call them clients, because I know where people go in their head when they hear the word clients. Let me just say that, like, the people in your network, your community, are going to remember if you were the one who was consistently still putting out content. So going back to the things that I've learned back in 08 and 09, the first thing that I said to my mortgage broker at that time, big shout out to Chris D'Souza, I said to him, because he was asking, we were on phone calls like, Jazz, the market's dipping a little, what do we do? I said, we stay the course, bro. All we do is keep putting out content and educating people. Tell them the truth, what's going on out there. Okay, I don't know how long that was going to last. It only lasted maybe 6 months here in Canada, and specifically the GTA. But currently, talking current now, I don't know how long this is going to last. I can tell you, though, if you're the one who's consistently educating people, okay, they're going to remember you when you get onto the other side of this wave that we're in right now. So back to 08 and 09, once that, they probably call it, late September, fall 09, once the value started to go back, consumer confidence, you said that word earlier, something that you can't really like put a black and white number to. The sentiment was like, okay, let's go start looking at homes, let's start investing. They went back to the person who built who became the authority. They looked around and said, you know what? Throughout that whole time in that 6-month period, it was REC who was putting out content. It was Jazz Takhar that was putting out content. It's the same thing that's going to happen right now. We're taking our own medicine. On the From the Ground Up side, the sales solutions for real estate agent company that we have, it's like, let's just continuously put out content. And then when the market shifts again, and people want to do a podcast, they want to be part of a 30-hour kind of immersion program, they want to take a course of ours, whatever. They want to get trained on how to navigate through that type of market. Once things go back up again, they're going to remember us. That's our thought. That's what I think is actually truly going to happen.
Just one more thought before I guess maybe we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
I can kind of just tell by your aura is that I just wanted to say a lot of people, I think, have a bad sense of self. So people listening to this right now are thinking, well, I'm not that person. Of course, I take the opportunity and I'm the risk taker. I'm the person that's going out and getting it. But I really want you to reflect on whether or not you're busy right now. So if you find that as a salesperson, you're spending more time at home, or you're taking like Friday off, or you're starting later on Monday. I think you really need to be questioning yourself, because you and I are busier now than ever. Like, it's not like we're like, well, you know, the economy's bad or the economy's not great, so I have nothing to do anyway, so I'll just go home. I'll spend some more time with family or whatever. We're like, oh shit, let's go. Like, so we're busier. So I think if you're sitting at home and you're finding that you have more time because the economy's bad and you're just waiting for things to pick up, my phone's not ringing, I have no time, I really think you're not the person that you say you're being. Go find something to do. Like, if no clients are calling you, go find them.
Well, I mean,
find something to do. You should be busier. Don't just sit on your ass. Go do something.
Well, you have to work. And to your point that we're busier, we're actually working twice as hard and making even slightly less money.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it works. Like, you have to do twice the amount of work. Yeah. So put on an educational event, start your content, start your blog, hire somebody, pick up the phone and call people. You should not be at home. This is where like the 1% of the 1%ers are made. And I'm getting passionate about it because like laziness just pisses me off.
Well, especially, you know what?
Laziness when you say you have the audacity to like, and I want to be somebody. I want to be a 1% of the 1%, and I'm doing all these things. And then I see you take off every Friday at like noon, or you don't even come in on Friday. I'm like, you're not.
And if you're self-aware,
actions aren't matching.
And to your point, Laura, if you're self-aware and you're just like, look, man, I'm happy with the way my business is. Like, amazing. You're winning. You're winning. Go back to like, this is episode, whatever it is, 208, 209 or something like that. Like, go back to our first 30 episodes and everything in between there. You'll always hear us say, if you're happy with what you're getting, we are not here to tell you that you should want more. Because I don't think I don't have the audacity to say that. And I think you would say the same thing, right, Laura?
Yeah.
But the second you say you want more, we're talking to those people. Yeah. The second you say you want more, now your work ethic needs to match that. Now you need to get out. Now you need to get out and do those three things. Create educational events, call your network, inviting people to those education events. I'm not saying pick up the phone and call and do the shit that in the 1970s, 80s, and today the air duct cleaning people do. Like, would you like to buy and sell and invest a house with me? Not that nonsense. Pick up the phone, invite people to your events, and then create educational content. Let people build that brand. Build that brand. You don't need a company, like a personal branding company. They're just there to sell you shit. It's the easiest thing to do is pick up the phone, go into selfie mode, and literally just shoot a quick video on educating people. Get started there. Over time, you'll start to realize, okay, there's some maybe trends that I can use, and maybe there's an easier way, like creating a podcast so you can then get more content. But all that comes later. That's later. Like that's you know, the grade 2 stuff. Let's just go back to kindergarten. Kindergarten is create the educational event, make phone calls, and then create educational content. That's what we need to do right now in 2023 as real estate agents, salespeople, and entrepreneurs. And for all my investor people in the community, because I always want to make sure I bring them value. If I can do a podcast and bring both people value, I'm always going to do that. Stay in the conversation. Do not read just headlines. There are tons of compelling buying opportunities out there. You just need to get your ducks in order. And we got to figure out, where's the capital? Where do we have access to capital? How can we maybe do a joint venture? If you don't have the capital, we need $200,000 down. Well, that means 20 people with $10,000, or that means 2 people with $100,000 each. Like, there's a lot of ways that we can get to that joint venture. A lot more people than you think actually want to just do things with other people when it comes to investing into real estate. Look at those options as well. Elto, you said, you know, like, Jazz, I got 25 minutes to do this podcast with you. You gave me even more. You're always trying to bring more value. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yes, as always, brother, behind the camera, thank you for what you do. And that was today's episode. As always, guys, leave a comment, like, wherever you're watching this stuff. Tell us if, you know, today's episode was valuable. And I know I can speak for Elto when I say this. Like, if it sucked, put it in there. Let us know. We're adults. We can handle the constructive criticism. If you loved it and it actually brought you value, just share this with one person. I'm not going to ask you to share it with everybody in your community, but if you can just share it with one person, we're really, as you can tell, very passionate about bringing value to people. Have an awesome, awesome week ahead.